This week, y'all, Pastor John Coaxum started us with insecurities. We've got some insecurities, and he told us that some of us need to take some time to sit on the bench. Okay, you, my brother, you, my sister, you need to take some time to get out of the game. Take some time to reevaluate what's going on in your life. More importantly, man, the insecurities that sometimes manifest themselves as you're in a relationship, sit in the game. Then we talked about identity. You've got a God-given identity, baby Baba, and your identity does not come from a man. It does not come from a woman. It does not come from being in a relationship. You have a God-given identity. And as we're talking about identity, you've got to first identify that the person who you want to eventually be in a relationship with, do they have cake? No pun intended, but do they got cake, all right? Now, we talked about, listen, it is not just icing. Nobody just sits down and eats a bowl of icing, but icing is supposed to be added to something. So we want to let you know, listen, when it comes to your identity, we want to encourage you. Don't just go into a relationship looking for icing looks and icing swag. You don't need just icing. You need cake. You need substance. You need something that's going to stick, because too much icing will make you sick if you have no substance with it. We talked about that. Then we talked about boundaries, y'all. Boundaries help you to have a less anxious life, because boundaries let you know what you are responsible for and what you are not responsible for. Boundaries let you know who you are responsible to and who you are not responsible to. And we ultimately decided, listen, man, that if we decide to live within the boundaries of relationship that God has set out for us, we will have more freedom than if we lived outside those boundaries. We talked about the reality that for many of us, man, because we live boundaryless lives, we have these buckets that we go from well to well, from relationship to relationship, seeking to be filled. And wells have a limited supply of water. The same way that each and every of these relationships, no matter how healthy it is, no matter how great it is, no matter how great he or she is, they can only give you so much. Then last night we talked about, man, how not only are relationships complicated because of our insecurities, our identities, our lack of boundaries, but because many of us are in this age where we are trying to explore and experiment with our sexuality. We want to know, listen, man, you know what I'm saying? What do I like? What don't I not like? What turns me on? What doesn't turn me on? What helps me reach a climax? What helps me get to orgasm? And we talked about the reality that sexuality is multidimensional, right? Your sexuality encompasses your biology, your emotions, your physiology, your spiritual state, your mental state, your emotional state, your physical state. Your sexuality is multidimensional. And many of us are living frustrated sexual lives because we're trying to fill a multidimensional sexuality with one-dimensional methods. So we're just trying to fill ourselves physically, when in reality, the search for sexuality is truly a search for intimacy. Right? And at the end of the day, the goal of sexuality is not really to find your greatest orgasm, but it is to find oneness with Christ. So you can find oneness with your future lover, with your future spouse, with your significant other. So we talked about all this. So we talked about insecurities. We talked about boundaries. We talked about identity. We talked about sexuality. And truth be told, I have the responsibility to talk about from singleness to dating. But let me tell you about something. I want to speak a word to somebody here today. Stop comparing your relationship or the relationship you want to Instagram, because your relationship will not look like hashtag Black love all the time. Your relationship will not look like hashtag relationship goals all the time. Your relationship will not look like hashtag interracial couples. Your relationship 70% of the time will look like this. 70% of the time, it is said that statistically, 70% of your relationship is in conflict. And 70% of that relationship that's in conflict is conflict that is inevitable and what's the word I'm looking for? It's in a cycle. And then you will always be in conflict, one way or the other. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have just a conflict-filled relationship. No, but what I am saying is that you who want to be in a relationship, whether you're a guy or a girl, let me tell you something. The both of you grew up in different homes, different contexts, different cultures, different backgrounds, different ways of thinking. You both will bring different pieces of the puzzle, and you both will have conflict. It is inevitable. You will have conflict. And I could not end my time from singleness to dating to talk about the reality that many of us, we are basura. at relationships. Trash, that's the Spanish word for trash. Trash, because we don't know how to deal with conflict. Now, this is why. Number one, we were taught how to deal with conflict by how we saw our parents deal with conflict. Now, I'm going to say that again. We were taught to deal with conflict by seeing how our parents did not deal with conflict. For some of us, and again, I said this earlier, man, we're not knocking our parents. Our parents did the best thing that they could. But the reality is, man, we learned how to deal with conflicts. And for many of us, we learned it from our parents. And our parents didn't do the best of jobs. Not because they weren't good parents, but because they just didn't know any better. So for many of us, our parents, whenever they were in a conflict with each other, they yelled. They stormed out of the house. They did not say a word. They said, you go sleep on the couch. Uh-oh. So we saw conflict resolution, or what we thought was conflict resolution, through the example that we were given through our parents. And for many of us, right, we want these Instagram relationships. We want these Snapchat filters. We want this Facebook reality, when truly Facebook is a fantasy. That's not how relationships always look like. So today, man, we're talking about conflict. So real quick, I have to tell you all a story. Right, the relationship that I'm in right now, I've been in it for 2 years, right? I enjoy my relationship, but I want to let you all know, I went into the relationship not knowing what the heavens I was about to get into. Can't use the other word. I've been trying not to use the other word. Man, I went into the relationship. We started talking. We talked for like, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 months. Man, I asked her out. Cool, man. 3 months into the relationship, all heavens broke loose. This is the conflict that I'm telling you, 70% of the time, you don't see it coming. It just hits. And it just happens. And by the time 3 months came, y'all, it wasn't just a, you said this and I got upset. It wasn't just a, you did this and I don't like it. No. It was a, we are going to break up, and we just started. Conflict immediately came up. And at that point, I did not know how to resolve conflict. My significant other did not know how to resolve conflict. And so we went on for about 3 months just in tight conflict with each other, going back and forth, me not understanding her, her not understanding me not being considerate of her, her being mad at me. And at this point, y'all, we were doomed for a breakup. Now, I don't have enough time to talk about all the different steps for conflict resolution, nor do I have all the experience to talk about conflict resolution. All I can tell you is my story. But here's one thing that I did learn, that when I found myself in this situation, I failed to realize and I failed to learn this simple rule. It's called the 5-to-1 ratio. 5-to-1 ratio. The 5-to-1 ratio is a strategy, a tool for relationships that teach that for every negative engagement, for every negative conflict that you have in your relationship, you ought to have 5 positive experiences to balance out the negative. Let me say that again. For every negative experience in your relationship, this is what I had to learn the hard way, you ought to have 5 positive to balance out the 1 negative. Let me tell you all something, right? In 3 months, that's not enough time to build that many good memories. 3 months is not enough time to build that many positive experiences. So honestly, when I began my relationship, I had nowhere near a 5-to-1. I had more like a 0.00000001. That's what I had. And so at this point, I found myself in this conflict, right, with my girlfriend at this time, with my girlfriend even right now. And the reality is this, man, it did not matter how many kisses, how many hugs, how many donuts, how many chocolates, how many flowers, how many letters, how many cards. It did not matter what I did. Why? Because, get this now, because we did not have any 5 positive experiences to balance out the 1 very, 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 very negative experience. Watch this now. She had no good, nice, loving, amazing memory and admiration to bring to the conflict. Stay with me. But because there was nothing nice to remember, the only thing that she could bring into the conflict was sentiment override. So by the time we continued in the relationship, every time she thought about that thing. Now, if you don't know women, I'll tell you right now, women don't forget anything. They remember every single detail. As a brother, as a guy, I forget everything. I don't even remember what happened 6 months ago. But she would have remembered it. Stay with me now. Watch this, right? So because we had no positive experiences to balance out the negative experience, anytime she thought about the negative experience, all the sentiments and all the emotions would come out, and she would feel just as livid, just as sad, just as hurt, just as disappointed as if it had just happened again. Because she did not have the 5 experiences to balance out the one negative experience. So I had to learn to be intentional. I've got to learn, man, to provide positive experiences in this relationship, or else by the time we come to another negative experience, what she's going to remember is the last negative one and not the 5 positive ones. We're talking about conflict resolution. So the reality is this. What kind of positive experiences are you intentionally having outside of your conflicts? This is the word right here. What kind of positive experiences are you intentionally creating for your significant other outside of the conflicts? Because the conflicts is inevitable. It's coming. It might not come tomorrow, but it's coming very, very soon. Now, it might be a small conflict. It might be a big conflict. It might be a conflict that needs to be solved. It might be a conflict that needs to be managed. But whatever the conflict is, it is conflict. But for many of us, when we do not have these 5 positive experiences that are intentionally created outside of the conflict, when the conflict comes automatically, the reality is it's easy to say, I love you when we're on a date. It's easy to say, I love you when you bought me a new laptop. It's easy to say, I love you when you bought me my PS5. Amen, somebody. It's easy to say, I love you then. It's harder to say, I love you when you don't tick me off. I can't use the other word. It's harder to say I love you when I've gone through your phone. It's harder to say I love you when you said something inappropriate to me, or when you said something that hurt my feelings, or when you missed my date, or you missed our photo shoot. It's hard to say I love you because at that moment, I'm not thinking about nothing nice. I am upset with you in the moment. And at that moment, I'm not thinking of anything else but the conflict. But if we can create, as a boyfriend, as a girlfriend, right? If you can create positive experiences outside of the conflict, then you have a better chance of managing the conflict, because at that moment you can go back to, you know what? This was difficult, but I remember when we went on a zoo date. This was difficult, but I remember when we went ziplining. This was difficult, but I remember when he took me on a candlelight dinner. This is difficult, but I know this is not him. This is difficult, but I know this is not her. Why? Because if all you have in the back of your memories in your relationship is conflict that have been unresolved and not enough positive experiences, what happens is the individual who is hurt begins to associate the problems and the pain with you. They're synonymous. So now, if every time we have a problem, and I think of the past problems that we have in the conflict, and I always associate them with you, then clearly 1 + 1 = 2. So if A squared plus B squared equals C squared, then clearly I've got, in order for me to remove the conflict, I might as well remove you. When truth of the matter is, if you intentionally build 5 positive experiences to balance out the one negative experience, well, man, you know what? We've got this problem. But I remember when he apologized last time. I remember when he made up for it last time. I remember when she, you know what? She admitted her fault. She confessed. She communicated, and now we're here. I remember that. So now I know, even though she did this, this is not in her character. This is not normally who she is. She just had a slip up. He just had a mess up. We can get through this because I know that's not who you really are. Stay with me now. Because after we answer the question, what kind of positive experiences are you intentionally having outside of your conflict? Let's go. Here's the real question. What are the necessary ingredients to create a positive experience for your significant other? Get this now, man. I love it how, man, I think I saw it on Facebook one day. Facebook, you know what I'm saying, have all these memes and whatnot. Facebook was talking about, it had these pictures, right, of the 5 love languages, physical touch and acts of service. And what's the other one? Words of affirmation. And what's the other one? Gives. What's the other one? I said physical touch, words of affirmation, gives, acts of service. I'm missing one. Which was the other one? Which was the other one? Physical touch, acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation. There's 5. What is the other one? I'm missing one. That's crazy. Quality time. There you go. There you go. That's clearly not mine. Clearly, that's why I forgot it. Quality time, right? Quality time. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of people say, oh, these are my love language, these are my love language, these are my love language, right? Here's what I've learned. Here's what I've had to learn as I'm talking about dealing with conflict, right? The way that I feel love is not the way that she feels loved. So I'm over here, if I'm someone who feels loved by gifts and I'm giving gifts, well, thank you for the gifts, but I never wanted gifts. I wanted quality time. So you over here giving and giving and giving of yourself, trying to create positive experience, and when she's like, well, these aren't positive for me. You giving the brother physical touch and hugs and kiss, and he's like, well, I'm not really the mushy type. I just wish you would help me out in the garage. So you kissing on him and hugging him and trying to cuddle with him. And he's like, but that's not a positive experience for me. A positive experience for me is you helping me out with writing the car note, with writing the budget, with helping me with the bills, with just help me out with something. So here's the real question. If we're talking about what kind of positive experiences you are intentionally creating outside of your conflict, if we're talking about, man, what are the necessary ingredients to create positive experiences for the significant other, I want to introduce you to a curriculum that I'm building. Okay, right? So Connection Community is creating a university soon. We'll be launching it very soon. I don't know what year, but we're launching it soon. But here at Connection, we want to create a curriculum, right? And I'm blessed to be working on my doctorate. Not now, but hopefully one day. I'm blessed to be working on it. And so I want to create this curriculum called a PhD in me. PhD in me. I want to know, do you want to have a PhD in me? That's what I want to know. I'm single. I like you. I like the cake that you bring. You got some icing. It's cute. We're getting to know each other. But before I enter, are you committed to getting your doctorate in me? That's what I need to know. Are you committed to taking the time to study me as your major? Are you willing to take the time to take a history class of my life? Where I was born, how I was raised, who I was raised with, the trauma that I may have experienced growing up, the way I relate to my parents or my guardians, the way I relate to my siblings, the way that my insecurity began to form at a young age, man. The good times in my childhood, the bad times in my childhood, the happy times, the traumatic times, the thing that have scarred me in my teenage years. Are you committed to getting a doctorate in history class of my life? Are you committed to getting a doctorate in the mathematical areas of my life? The areas of my life where all of a sudden the numbers and the alphabets come together when they were never supposed to. The areas of my life that for many people are confusing. The areas of my life where, man, for many times, there's a certain formula, there's a certain pattern, there are certain habits that I usually have. Are you committed to learning my tics, my buttons? What makes me go off? What makes me sad? Are you committed to learning? You know what? Whenever he does that, that hurts me. Whenever she says that, it reminds me of something in my past. Are you committed to taking an art class in my life? To getting to know what makes me happy, what I enjoy, what I love to do? Are you committed to getting a doctorate in me and staying with me? Are you committed to investing in this doctorate in my life? And the reality is that when I began my relationship, I had to face the hard truth that I did not have a doctorate in my significant other. I didn't even have a master's degree in my significant other. I didn't even have a kindergarten certificate in my significant other. I had no idea the things that would make her tick, the things that would make her smile. I just knew a couple things about her. So when the conflict came, I had no idea how to handle the conflict because I actually didn't know who she was. So if I don't know who she was, then how could I create positive experiences outside of conflict? I couldn't. Because I never took the time to get to know her. And I never took the time to get to a doctorate, a PhD in this woman. And for many of us, man, we don't want to take the time and we don't think about taking the time to getting a PhD in our significant other because that's a whole lot of work. That's a lot of studying. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of emotions. And Instagram doesn't tell you that. Facebook doesn't tell you that. The Snapchat filters don't tell you, listen, this is a very cute smile. But before she got to that cute smile, she had to work for a couple of months to learn what would make him smile. Are you committing to getting a doctorate in me? When we talk about conflict resolution, y'all, we're talking about the reality that for many of us, these conflicts, although they're inevitable, although they're going to come, they'll be easier to handle if you just simply know the person that you're about to get with. Everybody says it like this. I know it's corny, but I got to say it. Man, take some time to just be a friend. Take some time to just get to know them. We've always said this, and something that we say in Connection all the time is, you know what? Obviously, it's a group of young adults. Some people may be attracted to other people. Obviously, a whole bunch of young adults. There may be some potential mates. We say the same thing all the time. You know what? One of the beautiful things about Connection is that if you find someone who you are attracted to, the beautiful thing about Connection is that we have so many different things that we're doing. You can see the person in different areas of life. So if I'm attracted to you and I want to get my PhD in you, I can just sit back in Bible study and I just want to observe how you are in Bible study. If we're having a movie night, I just want to see you around other people. If we're going out to feed the homeless at the Sullivan Corridor here in Columbus, I just want to, you know what I'm saying? In other words, I want to see you in the different areas of your life because you are also not one-dimensional. There's more area, there's more sides like a prism. There are many different angles to you. And in order for me to be able to handle the conflicts that are soon to come, I need to be able to know, who am I majoring in? And am I willing to get a doctorate in this person? Because one of the things that's devastating in the academic world is for someone to go to school, pay all that money, go through all those quizzes, stay up until 11:59 p.m. for all those assignments that you didn't turn in the first place, for you to find out, I don't even like this major. It is a shame, man. You're spending all this time, investing all this money, investing all these emotions, trying to figure out if you like this person. At the end of the day, you're like, you know what? I don't got a master's in this person. I'm not even feeling you no more. We're talking about singleness to dating. We've talked about insecurity. We talked about identity. We've talked about boundaries. We've talked about sexuality. But today I could not end my week without talking about that. For some of us, the reason why we can't handle conflicts is because, number one, from the way that we learned from our parents, y'all, it wasn't the best way. But number two, we don't genuinely know the person, so we don't know what's going to tick them off in the first place. I just want to challenge you. Again, we talked about being under 20 minutes. We don't want to take long, so here it is right here. I want to challenge you today. Are you willing, for whatever person you have in your mind, are you willing to get a doctorate in that person? And more than else, if someone comes into your life, this is the question you must ask. Are you willing to get a PhD in me? Are you willing to create 5 positive experiences to balance out the negative experience that is soon to come if we decide to be in a relationship? Because conflict is inevitable. Now, this is what I've learned. This is what I've learned personally, right? The way I handle conflict is very different from the way my significant other handles conflict. Very different. And when we came into that one conflict, again, 3 months into the relationship, we basically just broke up. And at that moment, y'all, I had to learn that the way she handles conflict is not going to be the way I handle conflict. And I have to learn to be okay with that because she's not me. She had to learn I cannot get upset with him because this is the way he wants to handle conflict, because that's who he is. I cannot change him. But we have to learn, how do we, two different individuals, come together and resolve this conflict? Because I personally am a person where I want to address it now and get it over with. She is the person that says, you know what? I can sit here for a month and not talk to you and I'll be okay. And the reality is, there's nothing wrong to either. But we've got to figure it out together. But I first have to learn, why is she like that? Why is it that Max wants to handle things immediately now? There's a reason why I'm like that. There's a reason why there's a reason why for conflicts you leave and nobody sees you for 24 hours. There's a reason why in conflicts you blow up and everything and anything comes out. There's a reason for the way that you are. It's easier for me to understand how to deal with the conflict when I understand how you've reacted in the past to conflict. So now I know, you know what, when conflict comes, this is something that we need to learn to avoid. So I'll give an example and then I'm done, right? Man, one of the ways to get a PhD in me, a PhD in your significant other, is to learn their dictionary, right? Everything that has to do with academia, with getting a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, there's a whole lot of reading involved. Now, it's interesting, man, because just like we handle conflict differently, just like we're two different individuals, we have different definitions for the same words. I give an example, right? We started off together, I forgot how early in the relationship this was, but eventually we got to a conversation. And I said to her, yeah, you know you got some red flags, right? And she looked at me just like that, almost broke her neck. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, you got this, that, and the third, but I mean, that's okay. Those are just red flags. And she didn't say anything to me for a couple days. I was like, what did I say wrong? You just have a couple red flags. I got a couple red flags. She was like, see, I have a problem with that. I said, why? She said, because to me, red flags are deal breakers. Red flags for me are things that when I see them pop up, I'm running the opposite way. I said, oh, that's not what I mean by red flags. See, for me, deal breakers are deal breakers. That's just what deal breakers are. I thought, for me, red flags are things that I don't like that, but I can put up with that. Because in my previous relationships, I learned everybody has red flags. It's just a matter of choosing which ones I'm going to deal with. But when we came into the relationship, we came with two very different definitions of red flags. So the question is, if it was possible for me and her to come into a relationship with two very different definitions of red flags, imagine how many more different definitions of things we had when we first started. So the entire time we're going back and forth. I'm over here like, what is this girl talking about? She's not making no sense. And so we're here thinking like, this is the dumbest boy I probably have ever been with. When the reality is we were talking from two very different books. We're not even on the same page. Two whole different curriculums. That's why we have conflict. Because I wasn't taking the time in the beginning to getting a PhD in her. I was not taking the time to get a doctorate into getting to know what is her vernacular, what is her vocabulary. When she says this, what does she really mean? Can I tell you something else that I had to learn about conflict? This is it, I'm done for real. I had to learn something else. I had to learn not only how to communicate, not only when to communicate, but that I should communicate. Why? Because the lack of communication gives a rise in the imagination. What do you mean by that, Pastor Max? Get this now. If I don't communicate, then there's silence. When there is silence, nothing is being said. So the only thing left to do is for the mind to make up scenes and movies that actually never existed. So because I decided not to communicate, because she decided not to communicate, I'm over here thinking, well, what if she thought this? What if she's thinking that? What if she's doing this? When really none of those things ever happen. And now when I come back into the conversation, I'm not coming from a biased place already, manifesting those things that I thought out with my words. And by the time we realize we're arguing about something completely different than what was originally the problem. PhD. Are you committed to getting a PhD in that person? Is that person committed to getting a doctorate in you? So as we talk about from singleness to dating, and I hope this is an alley for next week, Pastor Colton is going to break it down even more, right? The process of moving from that dating into that marriage, into that engagement phase. What does that look like? But again, I want to let you all know that I've learned specifically in my dating relationship of 2 years, man, conflict has been magnified by like 10. Now, I ain't married, but I tell you right now, if dating is like this, and I'm not downplaying dating. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy my relationship. I enjoy it very much. Clearly, I've been enjoying it. I'm here for 2 years. Amen, somebody, right? And better yet, clearly, I'm doing something right because, she's here with this knucklehead for 2 years, right? The reality is this. If relationships if the conflict in relationships are being magnified by 10 now, imagine how much more they'll be magnified when you get married. You see, and I was, you know what, man, it's always one more thing. I'm done for real now. Watch this. I was done for real now. We were talking about this. When we were talking about maybe like a couple months ago. And I said, you know what's crazy? Whenever we have conflicts between you and me, they suck. But I can press end on FaceTime. You can just press end on FaceTime. As a matter of fact, with the new update, I can just look at you call and maybe not even answer. You can look at me call and maybe not even answer. But when you married, ain't no press end on FaceTime. It's you roll over and he's right there. It's you wake up and her behind got a mask on in the mirror in the bathroom. It's you have to live with the person. They are there. And the question is now, how do you deal with conflict when the person you have a conflict with is not 400 miles away, but it's down the room? How do you deal with conflict when you have to wake up to the person that you're upset with? As a matter of fact, if we're having conflict now, imagine how much more conflict we'll have when you get married, because marriage, although it's beautiful, it's a whole different ball game. How will you learn to deal? And the reality is this. I like the way Pastor Michael Kelly says. He says, listen, man, because of this situation, right? Because many of us don't know how to deal with conflict. Pastor Michael Kelly says the best. He says, listen, I want to suggest to everybody, you should date more and marry less. Date more. See, unfortunately, in our traditional church view, man, we have not really taught how to date. Not that there is a cookie cutter formula for every single person, but there are principles that you can work on and you can invest it into your life. But the reality is, if many of us dated more and learned how to deal with conflict, that by the time we get married, we would have some type of skills on how to deal with conflict. But for many of us, because we were not taught, we were told, you can't date nobody until you're 35. But then by the time you're 35, why are you not married? But then by the time you get married, how can you divorce after 2 years? Because nobody taught me how to do relationships. So I'm encouraging you today to get your PhD in yourself first. Learn what ticks you off. Learn the buttons that you have. Learn what's your love. Learn about you. Pastor John Coxon will say this all the time. Go to counseling. Go to therapy. Get to know you, because the best gift you can give somebody is knowing you. So, with that being said, let's go. If in a relationship, what education level do you have of your partner right now? Do you have a kindergarten certificate? Are you just graduating from elementary? Are you struggling in high school right now? Are you barely making it to your 11:59 p.m. assignments in your bachelor's? Are you at your master's? Have you made it to your PhD in your significant other? And if not in a relationship, what education level do you have of yourself? And last but not least, what practical ways can you begin your education of knowing you and your significant other today? So today I want to invite everybody who's watching on Facebook Live, watching on YouTube Live. If today you want to join us on Zoom, remember you can go to connectioncommunitycbus.com. You will find the Bible study Zoom link there. You can join us to discuss these after discussions, these after questions. But I want to let you know that today, man, as I'm closing out my week for It's Complicated, this is why relationships are complicated. Because many of us have insecurities that we have not discussed with ourselves yet. We have identity issues, so because we don't know who we are, we also don't know who we are not. We live boundaryless lives. So we make ourselves responsible for things that we're not supposed to be responsible for. And the things that we are responsible for, people are just walking all over it. Relationships can be complicated because we're carrying around buckets, trying to fill ourselves up, going to these wells that have limited supplies of water, trying to satisfy our sexuality in one-dimensional ways when our sexuality is multi-dimensional. Seeking for intimacy in all the wrong places. And unfortunately, because of the society that we grew up in, maybe the home that you grew up in, you never learned to deal with conflict. So at the first sign of conflict in your relationship, he's not the one for me. At the first sign of conflict in your relationship, I can't deal with this girl no more. When if you want marriage to be your reality, you've got to learn to deal with conflict. You've got to be willing to invest and commit to getting a doctoral degree in your significant other. So if you want to join us on Zoom for these post-sermon discussions, you can join us there. But at this moment, I want to ask you, bow your heads, close your eyes. God, we're praying today that we can stop being selfish and just thinking that when I go into a relationship, it's just about what they're going to give me. But that we can go into relationships understanding it's about what I'm going to give to them too. But I can only know what to give to them if I know who they are, if I know what they like, if I know their interests and their desires, their wants and their needs. Help us, God, today, if we are in a relationship already, to take time to begin the curriculum of getting to know our significant other. And if not in a relationship, that we may take time to get to know ourselves so that when we get in a relationship, if we ever get in a relationship, we will be able to clearly articulate to that person, this is who I am, this is who I am not, but more importantly, this is whose I am. I am a child of God. This is the way I live my life. This is the way I walk. This is the way I talk. This is the way I carry myself. I'm going this path. And I hope you're willing to join me as well. May today we be willing to get our doctorate in other people and live selfless, beautiful relationships. That after this relationship series, oh God, we can learn how to uncomplicate relationships a little bit more. We love you. We praise you in Jesus' mighty name. Everybody said, amen. Y'all be blessed. Be blessed out there.